may not see everything that was promised to us as we get to the end of the year. On the federal revenue side, I'd just like to point out that we did start receiving the ESSER grant funds. Those are those federal CARES dollars that were passed through. 15,000 was the first amount that we've received. We should see that either a monthly or bi-monthly revenue stream. Earned income tax collections, although that's looking like it's trending consistent with prior years, we're still on a timing difference with EIT and with Berkheimer. We have been in touch with Berkheimer pretty frequently. We are anticipating still holding about a 10% reduction in overall collections on the year. So we'll continue to monitor that and obviously make adjustments as we see fit moving into 21-22. Expenditures were pretty routine. You'll see salary and benefits are lower than usual. That's because of the closeout of the 1920 school year and the way that our financial software automatically posts payroll back to the 1920 school year for those 10 employees. That's all I have for reports, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Leslie. Are there any questions for Leslie?
Under property, showing tents at 16,000. We buy tents or renting tents?
So both. We did purchase several tents as well as we're renting several other tents. So currently we have, I believe we still have some of those rental tents on site. We will be returning those as the weather gets cooler and we no longer use them, but we did purchase some tents. And those particular tents that you see for 16,000 are included in the PCCD grant funding that we received. So that was provided for them, paid for through the grants.
Okay. Okay, any further questions for Mrs. Frisbee before we move on? Thank you, Leslie. Nick, we do have informational update under finance regarding the 1920 audit.
Yep, and this is just an information item for you, wanting to know, would the board like to see the auditors come out to present the audit? I'm sure everyone is aware, Bill Gorman did pass away back in the end of May. So his firm was already, he was in retirement mode and had transitioned the firm over to his partner, Bo Travis. So he would be the one most likely coming out to present the audit if the board would so choose. We're through the bulk of the audit at this point. They'll come back out for our federal programs audit, which is our food service program, as well as our IDEA. But the bulk of the audit has been completed at this point in time. We have to submit our reports to the state in October, excuse me. So typically we look at a January, depending on scheduling, a February timeframe. If you want to see the auditors come to present, they would come to the board meeting. So just looking for, would you like to have them come out to present or not?
Does any board member desire to have the auditor come here in person to address the board about the audit?
And we are still in a multi-year agreement for audit fees with Gorman and Associates. So I believe we have one more year left on that.
Bill Gorman has certainly been around here for a long time.
It sure was.
Decades, doing a tremendous job for our school district. And
yeah, he was certainly missed this time around. It was weird not seeing Bill out here for our audit, even if it was just the figurehead of him being here in his presence. But his team has stayed intact and continues to provide the quality audits that we've seen in prior years.
Well, I didn't hear any response to request the auditor to be here, so we'll just do it on paper.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. There's no old business on the agenda. Do any board members have any old business they'd like to discuss? Yeah, Mrs. Holman, can you give us an update now about where we are with our COVID experiences in our schools?
Sure. Some of the board members had asked for continual updates to come to the board meetings. And so I will give you a brief synopsis and certainly take any questions that we can. We continue to look at the data daily, and so we are able to pull a variety of different sources of data that we look at every single day. The countywide data is also updated on Friday. We will continue to do so to make appropriate recommendations for both changes in our preventative measures as well as changes in our instructional model. The way that we have most of the data is currently by zip code data, not all of the zip codes that we have part of our school district in. We have all of them. So there are currently 9 zip codes, not all of the entirety of each zip code is ours. By county, which is the metric and the model that was given by PDE and the Department of Health, was to look at the cases by county, and that puts that into a moderate spread, a substantial spread, or a low spread. By hospitalizations, which is also available by county, by number of investigations, and I'll give you some of these numbers in a moment, and the number of positive cases that we've experienced in our cases, in our classrooms and in our buildings and our athletics department. I will say that the hybrid approach, and as difficult as it is in terms of from our faculty perspective and both from our parent perspective, has been successful in terms of us in the cohort and quickly isolating students. We've been very successful with both the spacing as well as containing the virus in a cohort. Our teachers are continue to do a fantastic job in terms of synchronous instruction and making sure that students are able to synchronistically Zoom from both home and school and trying to keep pace of both of those groups as well as the online group of students that are completely online. We have almost 400 students that continue to remain completely online and don't enter our buildings, and that was made by parental choice. We will continue to evaluate the data. One of the things that we did launch, which the board was notified of, is on the COVID-19 website. We did put a tracker up that tells you by week, by building, how many positive cases. We certainly send the notifications out, but knowing that people lose track of the notifications, we wanted to just do a succinct approach. There is a tracker on there that is updated by week, by building. We continue to update our COVID website, so any of the newest guidance seems to be coming in hourly. We've recently received information about spectator changes that Mr. Zimmerman has rolled out. All of the newest guidance and changes are on our COVID-19 website, and we do send those out via email. But if you ever lose track of the variety of number of emails that we've been sending lately, the COVID-19 website is certainly a good place to go. Just some facts. Since the beginning of the school year, this is 8/31 to last Friday, 10/2, the district did investigate 83 different total investigations, and that's over 33 days. This has happened, I would say, 7 days a week since that school day, or since the beginning of school. And that is an average of 2.5 investigations per day across those 33 days. Not all of those are positive cases, certainly. That could be symptomatic. That could be someone going through a screening. That could be someone going through testing. That could be someone awaiting testing, whether that be a student or a staff member. And so 83 investigations we've done since the beginning of the school year that were COVID related in some way. Positive cases that you will see on the tracker by building right now there are 2 in the high school. There have been 2 in the high school. There has been 1 in the middle school, and there has been 8 at Weisenberg. Northwestern Elementary has 0 for a total district count of 11 positive cases. We do continue to experience some issues with substitutes. As you saw, if you would follow our Facebook or follow our social media, any of you who would like to share that, we would certainly be appreciative of sharing our substitute ad. Certainly substitutes coming in and filling in and putting number of substitutes in our pool would certainly be helpful. So just that public announcement. And just that we will continue to update the information daily, continue to share it with the board at these meetings, and continue to make recommendations about what we believe is best. Those of you who know, since our last meeting, we did experience a closure at Weisenberg. Weisenberg was closed for 14 days and opened on this past Monday and resumed in-person instruction. I will certainly take any questions if any of the board members have them.
Thank you, Mrs. Holman. Are there any questions from the board about our experience with COVID?
May I make a comment, Mr. Deliger?
Sure, go ahead.
As I've mentioned once before, I have a number of family members and friends who are on the front line teaching. So I just want to speak for a moment on behalf of teachers. This is certainly not to disregard what parents are going through, but as Mrs. Holman has said, that the district is going beyond many in terms of the synchronous learning. And with that comes extraordinary challenges. And teachers are really struggling, I think, to make this all work. They're putting in long, hard hours. I often hear the term exhausted from them in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. I think that probably applies to everybody in the administration also. So I do want to take a moment to just acknowledge, as a board member, the effort that they're putting in, the work they're doing. It is really extraordinary. And I think as I hear them speak, they are learning how to cope in different ways. They're identifying different resources. They're finding tricks that make it a little bit more manageable. So I do want to say to the administration, if there is a need for the board to, if there's something the board can do in terms of needing to approve of additional expenditures or resources that would enhance the software options that teachers are finding valuable to them, perhaps the hardware, anything we can do to try to help them get through this, I think would be much appreciated and enhance the effectiveness of what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warfel. Well said, and thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Werfel is certainly correct. Our teachers are working their tails off, I kind of said in one of the meetings earlier today. And they are finding ways and tips and tricks, and they're certainly sharing with each other and ways to figure out ways to do things slightly easier. But we recognize the situation that we're in terms of the hybrid approach, although it certainly has health and safety benefits, is not ideal for parents. It is not ideal for us. It is not ideal for teachers. It is really stretching everyone. And with some of that comes growth, and with some of that comes frustration. And sometimes you go through one to get to the other. And some of our staff are frustrated. And so, Dr. Werfel, it is duly noted they are working very, very hard. I think they are providing a good experience. And I think Dr. Siscovic and I mentioned this at the last meeting. And we would put that up against any other school district in terms of the experience our kids are experiencing online. I think that the time to keep them together and the level of content that our teachers are able to get through is amazing and extraordinary. They are really inventing a new system in terms of how to make it work. It's different even than what we did in the spring. And in some ways, I think most of them would argue probably more challenging. So remote instruction, although it had its challenges, I think keeping everyone all in one mode, in one place, probably was easier. They worked through that, but certainly keeping 3 groups simultaneously afloat through technology challenges, not only here, but home internet connections and content has its challenges. And so we certainly commend them and all the work that they have done. We're trying to support them through, that was one of the purposes of the cameras that Mrs. Frisbee talked about earlier in terms of the technology. You can learn 21 content. There are a number of different subscriptions. Seesaw, for those of who have elementary students, being one of them that we did purchase this year in an effort not only to make things more synchronous for teachers, but also for parents. And so trying to find one location where parents were going for content seemed to be something that was requested. And so that was one of those things that was certainly a double benefit. It benefited parents and it benefited students and it benefited teachers. And so we will continue to seek those things out and seek feedback. I know every one of our principals has done conversations with either department chairs or subject area folks to try to come up with solutions. I think they all, from what I can gather, see value. As difficult as the synchronous Zoom is to manage, some other districts have chosen not to take that route and to take an asynchronous approach. I think all of our staff see the value in the synchronous teaching that they're doing, even though it causes challenges in managing all 3 of those groups at the same time.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just have one comment. I just think it's something that we need to think about on the days that there are permanent staff members that are out and there are substitutes in the classroom. There are challenges on how those students who those cohorts are home and are trying to be a part of the asynchronous learning with substitutes. So I know that that's a challenge, right, as we experience influxes of staff who are in and out for various reasons. Those classrooms that are having substitutes, I think, is a gap. I don't know what that solve is, right? I'm not suggesting that there is an answer, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention that you likely know this. But I worry about what that looks like as that number of required substitutes could grow, and they are on days when those children are at home when the other half is in school.
You bring up a valid point. I mean, the complication with substitutes is multifold. It is certainly filling vacant positions with substitutes. Some of which are day-to-day, some of which are short-term, some of which are long-term substitutes, which all have different layers of complication. And so one of the good things is the Google Classrooms that we have set up. One of the complications is depending upon the necessity for a staff member to leave and the immediacy in which they do might or might not allow us to get another teacher, even a substitute, into that classroom as a teacher. And so the teacher sets up the classroom. They are the teacher just like on Canvas or on Schoology or any of the other learning management systems, and the immediacy in which some staff members, if it's an illness, getting a substitute. I mean, Mrs. Matika and Mrs. Stitzel, who might still be on, did survey substitutes about what technology training they need to do. What we discovered is even with some of the technology training, it truly is us getting them access to the classroom, physical access to the classroom, as well as getting them up to speed with where they physically are. And so it's not just as simple as grabbing a substitute plan. And so we continue to also work through those challenges of what's the best solve. Right now, our staff that are regular staff members in those classrooms are planning asynchronous lessons for those students for short-term absences, recognizing also that's not ideal. But we have had some more long-term absences that for one reason or another, we either need to get a substitute in a Google Classroom and up to speed with how they can then facilitate that classroom electronically, or in some cases where we have permanent vacancies where we've been unable to fill positions, which we have several, we have other staff members have picked up additional duties to pick up the responsibilities for those classrooms. Mrs. Matika or Dr. Susamet, you are welcome to add to that.
The only comment I'll add is that we recognize it. We know it's a concern. Like you mentioned before, we're not sure of the solve right now for all the reasons that Mrs. Holman just explained, but we are definitely sensitive to the situation when substitutes are needed and the continuation of what needs to happen for learning.
Yeah, and the only comment I would make, because I was heavy on the substitute comment, is just to be crystal clear, our staff have not reported to work in any fashion. The illnesses that we are seeing are typical traditional school year illnesses or absences that are of a traditional manner. I do think that we have less substitutes than we picking up jobs, not less people picking up jobs than we have had in the past. And then that is compounded if one of our staff members happens to, for their own illness or a household contact, end up in quarantine themselves, because that is a longer extended absence than you would traditionally have. So if a staff member becomes ill or someone in their family becomes ill, the potential for them to get quarantined for 14 days or 24 days is also a possibility. And that is atypical for a time period that a staff member would be out, unless it would be a long-term illness. And so you say as it increases, we also anticipate, should staff get sick, that there will be some quarantine that will compound that issue slightly.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions before we move on to new business?
Two questions.
Yes, sir.
One is, you mentioned 400 completely online. Any changes in that number? Are we seeing movement one way or another?
We ask people to lock in for the marketing period. We have taken medical requests or requests that were obviously based on a medical need to switch. I'm going to pull it up. I think it's 392 right now exactly.
389.
Thank you. 389 we have, so I know we're close to 400 students that are enrolled in the completely online option. So the good, as I mentioned in the last board meeting, the good and the bad of that is they continue to remain on our rolls and they continue to remain Northwestern students. The disadvantage is all of the aforementioned complications with handling a group of online students. But 389, at the very beginning, we did allow a shift for, I want to say the first 2 weeks or so, but we haven't taken shifts after that. At the marking period, we will again see whether or not there are shifts depending on the recommended load after November 5th.
Second question or observation, my question on tents related to finance is tied to this point, which is if you look at the Mathematica research study that came out, I know you shared it with us. One of the recommendations in there is outdoor settings and continuing to emphasize the importance of sunlight. Vitamin D, we know, combats this virus. I would love for us to continue to focus on outdoor activities through the cold weather. I know that presents some challenges, but we got pretty tough kids in this district, and there's very few days in this climate that we can't get outside. So I would love to see us continue that, if not increase the amount of outdoor activity that we focus on, even if it means cafeteria, etc. Get some heaters or whatnot in those tents, but I'd love to see that plan.
Yeah, I would probably tell you that our staff will stay and continue to use outside for as long as they are able. PE and health has certainly used it, will continue to use it. When Mrs. Frisbee mentioned certain tents we rent, certain tents we buy, the tents that we are actually renting are at the stadium. So once the stadium contests are, we don't believe we'll need them anymore, so we didn't see the need to buy them. The tents that are at I think all of our buildings, so Mrs. Frisbee can correct me, we have 2 tents at Northwestern Elementary, 2 at the middle school, 2 at Weisenberg Elementary. Will continue. We purchased them, and so they will continue to be able to be used. The other thing to note is at both of our elementary schools, our PTOs and PIs organizations were looking for a way to help, and so they bought what are called sit-upons for all of our elementary students that they can take out to the tent. And they are plastic and they can easily be cleaned, different than like a carpet or even a blanket that might need to be washed. And so they are continuing to work with us and try to find ways in which they can help in a new way. And the sit-upons was a great idea. So every student got them, and so they can use them in the classrooms, they can use them in the hall, they can use them in big spaces, but they also can use them outside. So I agree with you. Certainly, even the experience we've had in athletics, Dr. Sosnovic at this point pretty much knows the Department of Health questions by heart, and certainly they ask about distance and they ask about face coverings and they ask about inside and outside. And so there is certainly a difference in transmission rate or potential transmission rate for inside and outside activities. So that was one of the reasons, and I actually think you were the one who suggested looking into tents. That I think our staff will continue to use them and for as long as they are able.
Thank you. Let's move into new business. Highlight of the evening is appointing our new board member. 7.1 is the approval and appointment of Mrs. Rosemary Lister to fill a vacancy on the board until December 6th, 2021. And I would entertain a motion to do so. Motion by Ms. Fettler.
Second.
Second by Mr. Weiser. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 We'll have a roll call. Sorry. Mrs. Portinio, would you please call the roll?
John Cassiano,
John, can you hear me?
John, you're muted.
John Cassiano? We're taking a roll call vote to approve Mrs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Willard Delaker,
Yes.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Yes.
Todd Leiser,
Yes.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Yes.
and James Warple.
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous vote to approve Mrs. Lister. Thank you very much and congratulations. And at this time, we will have our first ever virtual swearing in of a board member in Northwestern Lehigh. And I would ask Attorney Moyer, who was with us this evening, to read the oath and swear in Mrs. Rosemary Lister to the Northwestern Lehigh School Board.
Absolutely, Mr. Delaker. Congratulations, Mrs. Lister. My name is Jessica Moyer. My name is Jessica Moyer. I am the solicitor for the school district. I have the privilege of swearing you in tonight. Mr. Delaker, as the board president, has the authority to delegate the administration of the oath, and he has asked me to administer it tonight. So with that said, I ask that you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for your support, and it's an honor to serve the school board and the Northwestern School District community.
Thank you and welcome aboard. And
Thank you.
look forward to have you help us through the next year.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thank you again.
Any comments before we leave this item?
The only thing I would like to say is, Mrs. Lister, congratulations. You are on the board from here on out, so you can listen and talk and vote on anything from here on out, although it's pretty late.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you again, everyone.
Okay. Moving on to item 7.02 is cancellation of the November board meeting, which we were going to have at LCTI and will now have here at Northwestern Meet in the High, either virtually or in person as we are doing this evening. So we will not be meeting at LCTI. And also that evening, I have a commitment that I made about a year ago that I'll have to miss the meeting. And I think it's the first one I missed at present, but Todd, you're on. Todd Hernandez, as Vice President, you'll be running the meeting in November 18th.
Todd, there are 10 hours of meetings that week. You have to attend.
Thanks a lot.
Moving on to item 7.03, you'll see in your device there is a proposed calendar for board meetings 2021, and just look that over. We will take action on that next in 2 weeks on October 14th.
October 21st.
Excuse me, October 21st.
If there is any desire, I just kept the schedule the same, 7 o'clock, first Wednesday, third Wednesday. The only exceptions are asterisk. One of them is May, just so you know, that is the budget timeline. You need to have the budget on review. So if there are any changes that you would like to see, please get them to me or bring them up certainly at the board meeting. We'll make changes to the calendar. Otherwise, I assume you want to go with Wednesdays and 7 p.m. for both.
Okay, and we will be taking action in 2 weeks on that calendar. Next item on the agenda is board committees. There's an attachment on your device that shows all of the committees, positions, and those who are in the positions. And the highlighted positions are those that we would ask you to either contact me or Mrs. Holman and let us know if you'd like to continue in those positions, or if there's some other committee that you'd like, that you're interested in, so we can discuss this and hopefully finalize that at the committee of members at the next meeting. Anything else?
No, there is one vacancy that is on curriculum council, as well as the yellow that are either up on the 3-year cycle or on the annual cycle. Just affirming the people in yellow wish to continue, or if there's any additional interest. The LCTI, which is the 3-year appointment, is the next agenda.
And the LCTI Joint Operating Committee rep is currently Al Rex, and with an alternate of Joe Fatzinger. Spoke to Alan, and he would like to continue, and Joe would also like to continue as the alternate. So we will be taking action to appoint those two gentlemen at the next meeting. So we're at the point in our evening where we come to courtesy of floor. Is there anyone listening in that would like to address the board this evening? If so, please raise your hand on your Zoom device so that Dr. Snowy can type you in.
I do not see anyone, sir.
Okay. Nobody wants to address the board. I'd like to just remind everyone we have a budget retreat that's 6 p.m. on October 14th, where we will be getting together to begin our discussions on our budget goals and our strategy to form a budget over the next year and actually longer, 5 years. So just a reminder, 6 p.m. on October 14th. With that, I would entertain a moment.
Mr. Delaker,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Delaker, may I make a comment before we adjourn?
Yes, yes.
I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not, but I'd like to ask that the board pause for a moment and have it in the minutes that we paused to acknowledge the passing of Reverend Dr. Gene Handwerk this past week. I hope that's an appropriate request. Reverend Handwerk served this community in tremendous ways through his ministry, and in particular, I'd like to honor his many years of service on the school board. So I hope that's an appropriate request, and you would join me in supporting its inclusion in the minutes.
Absolutely, it's a very appropriate gesture that we do that in honor of Dr. Handler. A friend and a school board member for years and a stellar member of the community. So let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you, and we will enter that into our minutes and send our best wishes and heartfelt sympathies to Marcy and his wife Lenore, son Philip, and other daughter Robin, and the whole Handler family. Now, we will resume a executive session after this meeting. Is there a new sign-in?
I will send another email.
Okay. Dr. Sosnowick will send you an email so that you can log into the Zoom meeting that will immediately follow this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Weiser. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Scheffler. Meeting adjourned.